Okay. Hello. Hello, world. I'm still alive. Welcome to Bengali Girl by NTK. This is your host, Nikita, and I'm so grateful that you're here and you're still here and you're still listening to this podcast. It does mean a lot. It has been a very challenging year for me. Last year, this year just started, but 2024 was very, very challenging. I did enjoy it. There were so many moments that I just was not right in my head, and we'll get into all of that. And I'm really excited to be back to doing this, my passion project of this podcast, and I hope that I'm able to just woo you with my words, woo you back with my words, right? Okay, so 2023, there was so many instances where I felt like I was putting a lot of pressure on myself. So realistically, last year was the first year where I didn't really have, a pressure of doing or achieving something. I did not put that pressure on myself, nor there were any goals set by parents or the society, goals such as graduating or getting a permanent residency, a job, or getting married and having events and stuff. And that kind of took me by surprise. If you know me, you know I love a plan, I love goals, and I love having a little bit of a pressure. I wouldn't say too much because I now know how to identify the right amount of pressure. But I was lost without that kind of direction last year where, I needed to achieve something or the other. So what did I do? I chose to ignore my mental health and just travel the world, something that I couldn't do before. However, I can also not ignore the fact that I was not doing mentally okay. I think in the rush of just wanting to travel and make memories, I did ignore the fact that was going on in my head. So let's dig in, right? So last year started on a lull of a heartbreaking and ongoing genocide that we are witnessing. And being an empath, and I don't think you need to be an empath to understand the struggle and feel compassionate, because growing up in UAE, we were taught about the conflict and the atrocities in our social studies class, of course barring the violence since we were kids. But growing up, we also noticed that every Ramadan there was a heightened level of attack on the innocent Palestinian lives. That was what we grew up listening and witnessing through the news. And I was shocked at first to hear a lot of people not being aware of the issues and the illegal stuff that the other imaginary country was doing and that was happening. But there is no space to blame the people of being ignorant. We were all ignorant at one time, and we were taught, which is why when I'm asked, or I do request everyone listening, if you are asked, don't shake it off and blame them for being uneducated on a topic, because all of us were at that point at some time in our lives. But what really got me is the fact that the donations couldn't get to the right person, because you should know by now how resilient Palestinians are. However, they also need help and support, and they were not able to get that help and support because the trucks were being blocked or something or the other was happening, right? Even talking about this now is getting me emotional, but I couldn't imagine that this is the world we live in. Being a history buff, knowing that the world had promised never again after the World War, but this is our reality, that we have to witness innocent lives being taken and then go into an office to type out an email. And at that time, everything felt like I couldn't live like this. What is this? And it was really difficult for me to grasp. I think, as they say, to wrap my mind around things. I did try to be present a lot last year with the people that I love, or thought I did, but it was challenging. And if you're not aware of the conflict and the genocide in Palestine, please do get educated, because that is the least we can do. If you are aware, please donate, pray, advocate, and educate others around you. But other than that, not having a certain goal to achieve, I did feel lost. I felt like I was doing or living for what? Nothing felt important, nothing felt necessary. There are people that are dying around me, and it just felt like, what is going on? And I know it doesn't sound normal, okay? Trust me, I know. But it was difficult. I tried really hard to be okay with having nothing super stressful in my life, but again, difficult to wrap my mind around things. I know it's the first world problem that I'm currently facing, but I don't want to classify it as a first world, second world, whatever. I think everyone deals with their own devils, and my devil is my head. And I'm glad to do, two things last year, which is I traveled a lot. Growing up, I just went from Dubai to Dhaka and vice versa during my summer holidays. And getting to travel now is definitely a privilege that I'm grateful for. So last year, I think, was my traveling era as well, because I think I kind of put traveling as my goal for last year. Like I put that goal into myself that I need to travel a lot. Last year, my husband and I, we traveled Singapore, we went to Japan with friends, and then we went to South Africa for a honeymoon. And all three countries were so beautiful and they were so culturally rich. I was in complete awe. And I also met and lost a few people from my life that I'm glad to be done with and close those doors. I think the first person would have to be my mechanic, because that dude literally took so much advantage of the fact that I'm a girl. Okay, I'm gonna tell you the story of our trip to Hunter Valley. I think this trip was in June of last year. It was a girls' trip, so it was me and 4 other girlfriends. Yes, 4 other girlfriends. And we decided to take my car to drive from my place in Sydney to Hunter Valley. Now, this is roughly, I would say, 2 to 3 hours of a drive. And as we were on the highway, my car suddenly tells me that transmission is overheating. Stop car now. And I was like, what the? I was like, what is going on? Okay. I stopped the car on the side of the highway. There's no smoke coming out of the car or anything. So all 4 or 5 of us are just sitting in the car, and the highway is busy and there were trucks zooming past us like crazy, and the whole car was shaking, and all 5 of us are just like, what do we do? What do we do? We were not freaking out. I would be lying if I said we were freaking out. We weren't. All 5 of us, even if we might have been freaking out internally, externally, all 5 of us were so calm. So we let the car sit and be I don't know what's the word, meditate for a while. And then I started the car and started driving again because the warning went away. But I think 10-15 minutes later, the car is like again giving me a warning, but it's telling me transmission overheating, stop and rest. So I was like, okay, that means I'll just stop the car again. And I think by that point, we were just an hour away from our destination, or even less than an hour away from our destination. We waited, and by that time I called Akib, and everyone were calling their partners, their friends, mechanics that they might know about what's going on, and everyone is just like, if it's the transmission, then you guys can't like travel any further. Like, if it's the transmission, you can't get a mechanic out and fix it. Like, it's something that needs days to get fixed. And we're like, shit. So we're like, you know what, we're Delulu, all of us, we'll go through this. We started the car after resting it for like 10-15 minutes, and then we were on our way. Now the car was doing well. If I was like not really hitting the pedal and exceeding my speed limit to like 70 or 80, it was fine. It was okay. And we took the exit to Hunter Valley. We are on this road that's, very isolated, of course, away from the highway. And then suddenly it's like, stop the car now. Transmission is good. Like something. I don't even remember the warning anymore. And we stopped the car. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to drive this car. I cannot. So we stopped the car. All 5 of us got out, and we're like, okay, wow. And they're all just like, everyone was just like looking at me because they're expecting me to like literally break down. And I think I would have, but I felt really like, I wouldn't say calm. I was like, okay, this is just an issue. Let's just fix it. Let's just do something. So we had to call a tow car to come get the car from Hunter Valley to my place in Sydney. Of course, that cost us an arm and a leg. I'm not even going to tell you how much it cost, because if I remember the cost now, I'm going to cry. However, I was like, okay, we'll get a tow car. And then we're like, okay, sorted. we'll wait for our tow car. But there were so many lovely people just stopping and telling us, hey, do you need some help? And one woman even like came back with some transmission fluid and stuff. She's like, oh, maybe use this and stuff. And like, I cannot tell you how nice these Australian people were, because they're like, we weren't sure to stop because usually, we've heard horror stories of like people stopping and getting murdered and stuff, and we were really concerned. But then we saw like it was like 5 girls just like walking around lost, so they all stopped, which was really nice. And then this one tradie stopped, like this guy with I think it was a Hilux, stopped his car, and he's like, oh, what do you girls need help? Like, where are you girls going? And we were like, oh, our Airbnb is in Hunter Valley, which is literally just 15 minutes away, but we cannot drive the car now because it told us to stop and we cannot use it. And he's like, oh, okay, what I can do is I can take some of your things, and even if someone wants to come with me, I can take them to the Airbnb. Now, me telling you the story right now and you listening, you must be like, don't trust that man, it could be a murderer, it could be a killer. But at that time, all 5 of us were so delulu. We were so tired. We're like, the universe has already tested us. It's not gonna get worse. And that guy had a baby seat in his car. So we were like, yeah, it must be safe. Yeah. I know, telling you the story, I'm just like, oh my God, why did we trust that man? But we did. Somehow we did. All 5 of us are like, yeah, let's do it. So 3 of the girls went with that guy, and then it was me and a girlfriend, and we were sitting and waiting for the tow car to come. And honestly, that conversation while waiting for that man was so amazing. It was so nurturing. We both were like, just say positive things. We're not gonna talk shit about other people. We're just gonna put good stuff out in the universe so that we're getting something back. And then the tow car came. We took an Uber, went to our Airbnb, because we did not want to waste our weekend or like our girls trip. Like, that still has to happen, right? It doesn't make sense that we came this far. We were literally 15 minutes away from our Airbnb to just give up and be like, yeah, let's go back. So we enjoyed our weekend. There were so many other crazy stories from that weekend. But of course, like, if I go into that right now, I'd have to disclose a lot of other things that I'm not willing to disclose of how unsafe we were. But let's just say that was the time when I hated my mechanic, because after the car came back to Sydney and then we were supposed to take it to the mechanic, he's like, yeah, I'll fix it. Like, if you fix this, it's gonna, be okay. But no, lo and behold, that was just the start of the issues with this mechanic, because he was being so dodgy, and he literally gave me mental breakdowns, because I was just like, I couldn't believe that a person could be this cunning and evil. I mean, of course, I've met Bengali people, but this is literally words are not like right. What? Words are not working for me. But literally, this man was playing with my money. So this hurt more than the emotional hurt of what other people were doing to me at that time. But we will get into that as well, because, as I said, this is the start of a new year and we're gonna get into it. But anyways, I did close a lot of doors in friendships as well, because I realized that I was the only one giving the effort and it was not being reciprocated. But I guess every year I go through a dump of people out of my life, and that is just part of adulting, I suppose. But I decided I'm gonna tell you the list or the personality types that I've kicked out of my life this year, last year. All right, but before I start, let's flip a page. Now, this section of the podcast is going to be me flipping the book 101 Essays That Will Change the Way You Think by Brianna West or Waste. And whatever message we get from the universe is the message that I was supposed to get for this podcast. So let's get started. Okay. We're not supposed to be better than our humanness. Doing so is overlooking the point of the body in the first place. We can choose happiness, but we choose the full spectrum of experience instead. So maybe instead of believing things are linear and the road only goes upward and toward happiness, we allow ourselves what we choose. We pay the bills and do the dishes and cook the dinner and wonder why. Maybe there's no point to feeling other than to feel it. Maybe it just persists because we pretend there is. Ooh, okay. Yeah, I think I can relate to this quote quite a lot because, sorry if you hear my chair creaking, but I relate to this quote quite a lot because I feel like we're very scared to experience things in our lives because we think that, oh, it's going to give us a good or a bad or a very negative or a positive or a scary feeling. And we're kind of limiting ourselves when we put that boundary because we should be experiencing. It's okay to experience. For example, I hate watching movies or TV shows that have a lot of gore, that have a lot of violence, that have a lot of death, because I don't want to make myself experience that. I kind of, protect myself from things like that because I get very, very attached and I get really my whole mental psyche, I think, gets destroyed when things like that are happening around me. And unfortunately, I do push myself now to watch those movies because that is the reality we are living in and it's just an experience. And it's such a beautiful quote that I just read and I feel like it's so apt for the podcast because, I chose to do the traveling. I chose to do the, attending events, being more present, but I literally ignored my podcast. And I was so grateful that a lot of you were still, were listening, we're downloading this podcast, and it means a lot. Of course, there are so many podcasts out there, and for you to come back and download an episode of this and listen to it, it fills my heart with joy. And I'm so proud to see that a lot of Bangladeshi creators are also moving to podcasts because it's a good space. I don't think there should be any competition because it's such a vast area. It's literally the internet, okay? It's so vast. So it doesn't matter Bangladeshi creators coming onto the podcast. But the thing that I do have a issue with is they try to preach. Now, this is my issue, I think, with overall all Bengali content creators out there, that they will push a narrative about themselves online, but knowing a few offline, I know that that's not the life that they portray, and it hurts that they are pushing a narrative for something else, whereas they are hypocrites overall. That's the word, right? That's the overarching word to explain, to be hypocrites. Because that makes me think that if it's so easy to slip in and out of this character, as they say, then are they doing the same in the kind of friendships I have with them? It makes you think that if it's that easy for them to be a hypocrite to others, they can do the same with the people that they're close to, right? It wouldn't take them so long. They already have so much practice. But that's one thing that I'm really not happy with. The other thing that I'm not happy with Bangladeshi content creators is definitely the promotion of vapes. Now, unfortunately, because vapes are so new, or vaping is such a new concept, there are no research on the long-term effects. There are short-term effects that we have been able to witness and we are able to research and study on. However, there's a very long-term and worse effects than a cigarette, right? Because this is literally nail polish remover that you are inhaling as a vape. And I used to think that it's okay to vape. But then I did research for my university degree where I understood the ingredients of this vape. And I couldn't even think of touching another one anymore. And to think that people are promoting in Bangladesh, if you go to a content creator, you might see that they have a vape in their hand, which is completely fine. They did not plan to post it. However, what I'm against is they are promoting pages that sell these vapes. So they're like, oh, buy your vape from Headgear, blah, blah, blah. That just, the page Headgear just came to my mind. But basically things like that, like saying that, oh, you can get your vapes from this page now. You are, it's like promoting cigarettes or any other bad habit, right? You are promoting this for what? For a couple hundreds of taka? but you're promoting. Okay. You know what? That's my issues. The two issues that I have with Bangladeshi content creators, because be authentic. Like, what's the point? What's the point of like slipping in and out of a narrative or even promoting vapes? Why can't you be authentic? It's the fact that you say, oh, I want people who are real, people in Bangladesh should be real, but then you yourself aren't. It's a hypocritical thing as a whole, right? Sorry about that rant. I feel like I needed to put this out in the universe that I'm not okay with this kind of behavior, because it's literally the worst kind of behavior to have. But anyways, kudos or congrats, or hoping that there are more podcasts from Bangladeshi content creators. Actually, I think I am the most low budget Bangladeshi podcaster out there at this moment, because the podcast pages that I've seen come out from Bangladeshi people, like, it's a full-on production, and I'm just here in my room in my house with my laptop and a mic and Spotify soundtrack. But we'll get there, guys. This is my passion project, and I really missed podcasting, and I'm really, really sorry that I've ignored podcasting for so long. I feel like I ignored this because it was easy. There was no one really on my tail to like get a podcast episode, even though my besties and my husband did try to push me, like Gree and Akib, like, thank you. You both have been, very diligent in asking me about my podcast. So this episode is dedicated to you in a way, but thank you so much for the support. However, let's get to the type of personalities that number one, the person who is a victim in every narrative they weave. And trust me, guys, when I say this, that there are genuine people who are genuine victims of stuff that happens in their lives, but it's such a thin line to differentiate between the person who is actually lying and being a victim and a person who's an actual victim. How do I know this? Because pretty much I would say 70% of the people I kicked out of my life were people who were pretending to be victims. Literally. And it's sad, and it kind of shows how naive I am when it comes to friendships, but it's the fact. There are so many people who will weave stories to make themselves the victim, like nothing is ever their fault. It's everyone else's fault that they're doing all this to them and all of that crap, and it can happen to the best of us. So I kicked that person out because there was a situation that happened, and I expected maturity, as they claim that they are mature, and to have an open conversation, right? There was a lot of misunderstandings in form of communication that happened between us, and I did apologize for the stuff that I couldn't do as a friend. However, even though they said that they forgave me, they went behind my back and they did tell people that I never apologized, I never did anything, that I'm not a friend to them and all of that, and purposefully making situations where I was being cornered. So I was like, okay, fine, don't need to indulge. And the way I broke that friendship off is literally by removing them. I don't think they need any explanation, which is because I've tried to have an open conversation, but if it doesn't work that way, it doesn't, right? Some friendships will whizzle out, and some stay strong. Unfortunately, that was the kind of friendship that I didn't want in my life. Someone who is not mature enough to have conversations about growth or areas where they could understand where I'm coming from, because I understood where they're coming from. I tried to meet them halfway, and there is literal proof that I met them halfway. But if they're not going to do it, then why not? Bye. That's number one. I can't really go into details of what exactly happened. Maybe in the next 5 years, if this podcast is still there, I can share the details, because I feel like it's too recent to share the details, and people can easily add up the dots if they haven't already. However, number 2 is this person that I thought was my family. you're all just like nodding your heads and you're like, yeah, we've been there. So I thought this person is my family, and I was like, this doesn't matter if we don't meet every day, if we don't talk every day, it is what it is. However, girls and guys and whoever's listening to this, you have to understand that there has to come a point in your life where you realize that you cannot always be the first one giving the effort in a friendship or any relationship. It can be with your parents, with your partner, with your siblings, with your friends. You cannot always give the effort, because that gets tiring. That will consume you slowly, and if not surely will consume you, because at some point you'll just be like, wait, hold on, I've been doing so much, what are you doing, right? And you don't want to go into that phase. That phase is very negative. However, this is the kind of friend that I kicked out last year, where from my life, not from anywhere else, but I kicked out last year where I was giving all the effort in that friendship, but there was no effort being reciprocated. And then you find out that this person has actually been talking shit behind your back. Oh my God, I feel like last year was very revolutionary for me, because I found out so many people spoke shit behind my back. But this person spoke shit behind my back before they even knew me, which was, I was like, okay, that's excusable because they didn't know me. They can talk shit. It makes sense. Sometimes I don't give off the right vibes, you know. But after knowing me, they never went back on their words. They continued and went stronger on that narrative that they set about me. Which, okay, what can I do? That's your perspective of me. That's fine. But I was like, I'm not going to engage in this. I'm not going to let this person stay in my life just so that they can see other things happening in my life and comment on this about my life to others, you know. Kicked out that person. I think it's the two kinds of people that I kicked out. Third, not really relevant. I don't think I've kicked out this person yet, and that's because I feel like there is somewhere a genuine friendship that was still there, and I still believe in that genuine friendship. However, it's almost on its way out, because the thing is, guys, one thing that I learned is the actions that people take, you know, not just in the friendship, but for you, around you, can say so much, can speak volumes of the feelings that they have for you, right? And I'm a very loyal friend, and a very straightforward friend, unfortunately. So if I don't like something, I will tell you, but I will tell you in the comfort of your home. I will tell you where there are no other people involved, so that you only you hear my genuine reaction, my genuine thoughts about a situation, because I feel like that's fair. I don't know, what do you think? But I think that's fair. I don't like correcting people in public if I care about them. I would rather do it at home. Or in private, because I feel like that way you are respecting their opinion, but also correcting them. I just don't think you can say it outright in front of people that, hey, don't do this, you're wrong. That doesn't come off right? But anyways, I'm kind of going on this banter is because I feel like I used to value friendships a lot, and unfortunately the people that I had in my life at that point, or who are not in my life anymore, who I treasured, didn't really treasure me back, and it's a very hurtful thing. It's the friendship breakups that honestly hurt the most, and it's completely fine with me. It's honestly completely fine with me. Right now, I think I'm almost 29 years old, and I feel like that sound is exactly how I feel like it. Like every time there's like, oh my God, some drama gonna happen, I'm just like, ignore. Who cares? Like life is so much more than drama. There is so much to do. There is so much to life. There is so much, I don't know, like I'm just in this space in my head, guys. It's towards the end of the podcast episode, so maybe that's why my words are getting like mumble jumbled, but whatever. But anyways, I did not really kick out a lot of people. Now that you think of it, I'm telling you that I kicked out a lot of doors. I think I kicked out a lot of people from my life throughout 2023 and 2024, which is why I'm still like clumping it together and saying a lot of doors. But I'm putting in a lot of boundaries. My boundaries are very strong from, I think, mid of last year. They were so strong. Like, if I have to call a spade, I will. And if I have to cut that person off, I will. Because my mental health comes first. Nothing else matters. My mental health, my financial health, my relationship with my partner, my relationship with my parents, me being educated and continuously educating myself about different things is important. So yeah, that's why this year I've set a lot of goals for myself. As you can tell, as I said in the beginning, I don't want to feel that feeling of being lost. I don't want to feel like I don't have a direction in my life, which is why I decided to like sprinkle some New Year resolutions. Now, this is the first year that I've actually set up a New Year resolution for myself, and that is to learn swimming. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know how to swim. I was never taught how to swim. And that's a very sad story because let me tell you the lore, right? My sister wanted to learn how to swim. Actually, the school that she was in, I think this was when she was in grade 5 and I was in grade 1. We have a like 4-year academic difference. So she said that she wants to go for these swimming classes that this school is arranging. And my parents were so excited for her. They bought all the gear that you need for swimming. They bought her new swimsuits and stuff, and she went for classes for like 3-4 months. And then my dad took us to a lake and he said, okay, show me what you learned. And guess what this girl was doing all this time? She was walking like her feet were touching the floor and she was just using her hands, and that is what she said, or she identified as swimming. Let that sink in. And that is why I never learned swimming. My parents never taught us swimming. So I'm determined to learn swimming this year. I've submitted my application to the aquatic center that's close to my area, so that I can go for these adult swim classes. Now, I am so scared because just recently I was on a girls' trip with my girlfriend Gree, and who you met in my last episode 14. I was on a girls' trip with her, and she's like, oh, we'll just go here, you'll be fine, I'm there. And I just, for like a moment, my feet could not touch the floor, and I panicked so bad that I think I hurt her. I was like, Greek, just come here. And I think she was rushing to come to me. That's why she got a bruise. She's saying she didn't get it because of me, but I feel like she's just being nice to me. But I panicked so hard. And I told Greek at the pool, I was like, you were this close to losing this friendship. I am so scared in the water. So guys, you better be wishing me luck after you hear this, because I am going to start learning how to swim. I'm going to go and buy myself all the gear, feed my inner child some happiness and some care and some love, and buy everything that you need to learn swimming properly. And I'm going to learn it. And hopefully I'll be swimming everywhere come September, October. I'm giving myself that much time. I'm not really putting so much pressure on myself because, again, I want to take off all the extra pressure and just give me some little pressure to live by, right? I think that's good. Also, the other goal that I have is that I want to read 365 books this year. Yeah, I know it's intense. I know it's a lot. But guys, the thing is, I used to read a lot of books. I used to read books so much that the library that I studied in school, in TWS in Dubai, they used to have my picture outside the library because I was the highest reader, or like the highest book borrower, and I would read all the books, and the people at the library were like, oh, you're taking so many books today home. I'm like, yeah, and I would read all of them. I love reading. I love getting lost in the story of it all. I love getting lost in, the world building, and I feel like I'm so grateful to Stephanie Meyer for in a very twisted way. So I was in big reading slump. So I did not read any books since 2016 when I moved here to Australia, because life was happening, right? It was just too many changes happening. Didn't get to read a book. But she released Midnight Sun, which was Edward's version of, I think, Twilight and New Moon, if I'm not wrong, and Eclipse a little bit, I think so. And I was like, oh my God, I need this book, because ever since I read Twilight, I was a huge Twilight fan. And I was like, I need this book to understand his POV. Because a lot of the times when you're reading Twilight, you're just like, huh? What is he doing? Why? What's this? What does this mean? So I was like, okay, I'll get this. And I got Midnight Sun, and that is what got me into reading. And that was in 2020. And my reading speed has come back, and I've been reading a lot more books. I also got into the romantasy genre, which is also very, very addicting. If you know, you know, right? Like the Throne of Glass, the Akata, you have the Empyrean series. You also have, of course, the Once Upon a Broken Heart or something, but too many series, like too many romantasy series that's out there, and I love it. So 365 books this year. Learn swimming, and a couple of other goals that are just so personal for me, but these are the two main ones: learn swimming and read 365 books. I am already 18 books in for the year, so I think it's achievable. I just need to not be too busy with my life and focus on some reading. I also started reading or listening to audiobooks, which is life-changing. I never thought I would like an audiobook, but being a podcaster, listening to podcasts every day, audiobooks are just like that, someone narrating something, and it's amazing. But yeah, anyways, more focus on goals of mine on the next episode. But thank you so much for listening. I'm really grateful that you guys have stuck here, and I'm truly back for reals this time. So thank you. Bye.